mode of thinking. And maybe a couple years I will get to it. Need to get the records done first.
Yes, exactly, which leads me on to my next thing. You're all these segues. You're working on the new album at the moment, is that right? So can you tell us a little bit about that and kind of how far the process is down?
It's the whole material is basically written. I wrote most of it in Brazil, where I've been living since beginning of that year. So it's almost a year now there, and it was always like a romantic place for me, but once I moved there it was even more romantic.
Yeah.
And it's also a musical heaven. So it's doesn't mean that the new album is going to start with rhythms of samba.
Yeah.
Of course, it's a lot more, for me, influences are something a lot more textured things, you know. You don't like something, this thing called flavor, or Brazilian flavor or Latin flavor. That's cheap.
Yeah.
It's more of spirit, and for that you have to spend some significant time there and get to know it and cross-path your stories with people from there. So, you know, now we've been already playing some of the stuff on this tour. It's always good to test it on people. We're pretty psyched about the response. It's another step in evolution. You know, it's a kind of a deeper investigation into the Eastern European, Latin American connection. You know, the precisely what makes the music of us and them so buck wild and unstoppable and such a essential part of life, you know? You're Irish, that's your interpretation. Yeah, it's really music as a combat art, you know? In music as a weapon against, you know, melancholy and, you know, other conditional problems. And there is much more to tell about this album. It's just not time yet for me to say.
Yep.
For certain reasons, some info needs to be withheld.
Yep.
But when you will hear it, you will be very excited, I promise you.
I'm excited already.
So, you know, I mean, last year I was invited to go and travel through Brazil with Manu Chao, my hero in the past, and now my friend. And
it's been playing in London, haven't they?
yeah, yesterday. And what I experienced in that first carnival was this profound thing that I was hoping for to experience.
You got five.
And you know, that on a superficial level, you know, Carnival is just a street party, but what does it do for, you know, this gigantic communal experience where this musical street gospel meltdown across the nation is so powerful, you know, you can't it's an absolute must to experience. It burns so much of internal frustration and it has such a healing power.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I want to capture and connect on this record, you know. I know that our music was always in that spirit,
Mm-hmm.
but we'll put new colors on it and maybe deliver that with certain coherency.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think that on the last album we made some things that were overly complicated.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately we live in a time of plague of average intelligence.
Yeah.
Where only lowest denominator gets digested and
Yeah.
accepted. So you kind of developed maybe more taste for less words and using less words to convey more of a message.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see, I hope.
Exactly. Okay, just to finish things off, can you give us, you know, obviously as you kind of mentioned already, yourself and the band has a kind of certain philosophy and feeling, and you know, the whole gypsy punk thing. Can you give us a bit of gypsy punk philosophy?
It's something that we can endlessly talk about, because which aspect of it shall we talk about? First of all, Gypsy Punk is just the name of our album.
Mm-hmm.
That was recorded with Steve Albini. Then that was inspiring to many other musicians, so everybody who was ready to jump on a wagon started calling themselves that too.
Yeah.
So we can talk about that, but I don't really want to talk about that, so maybe something that means actually to a Romani community, and I can elaborate on.
Yep, yep.
And that would be the actual process that gypsy music is going now is very much similar to what had gone in what reggae music has gone in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
You know, of course there was reggae music before, and it was a regional small island phenomena.
Mm-hmm.
And then several people found a way how to make it sound universal and bring the rest of the cultural and political message with it.
Mm-hmm.
It's similar now with gypsy music. I don't play authentic gypsy music. That's my roots, that's my background. I can play it.
Mm-hmm.
I can go out there and play for hours on my guitar and with acoustic band, and I will do it actually in the future, soon too.
Yep.
That's one of the projects coming up. But with Gogol Bordello, I write my own songs and bring the rest of the message.
Mm-hmm.
To verbalize it in a new way and maybe in a more aggressive way than it was spoken before.
Yep.
So by its nature, no matter what you do, it's already political. It's one of the ironies for me, because I always wanted to be very much on a Amadeus side of things and be completely apolitical. It always bored the shit out of me to talk about politics. I was always convinced about simple ideals of earlier anarchists, of Buonaventura Dorotti and Nestor Makhno. So politics always bore me, because we live in a world that's so far away from. No! And by the nature of associating, with progress of this gypsy culture that it's making, it's political anyway.